Hello! Today we're going to be making Charmander, and I'm going to walk you through the steps to make this little guy. And he's kind of small, but he will work really great as a bag charm or a little extra gift to give to somebody who's a big fan of Pokemon. So let's get started, and we're going to go through all the materials that we'll need to complete this project. The 4 colors of yarn I'm using is orange for the main body, cream for the little belly area, and then yellow and red to help make the little flames on the tail. The tools I'm using are a 3.25 millimeter crochet hook, pair of scissors, yarn needle, stitch marker, safety eyes, and then we've got our polyfill. We're starting off with our orange yarn, and we're going to use this to make both the body and the head in one piece. And we'll start off with making a magic ring. And I'll just slowly go through how I make my magic ring. And I know there's a lot of really good tutorials on how to do this. Okay, so we've got our magic ring. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off single crocheting 6 into the magic ring. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we'll give this a tug to pull it closed, but we don't want to pull it super tight because it can make it hard in round 2 to get into that first stitch. But after round 2 we can give it a tighter pull to close up that little gap. So we now have 6 single crochets into our magic ring, and we're going to increase to 12 in round 2. I have my stitch marker placed in the last stitch of round 1, and we're ready to start round 2, where we will increase in each of the 6 stitches. So in our first stitch, we'll single crochet 2, and then just single crochet 2 in every stitch, and at the end we'll have 12 stitches. There's 8, 10, pop out the stitch marker, and 12. And then we can pull our tail just to make sure that little center gap is all closed. And now we're ready to go on to round 3, where we're going to increase from 12 stitches to 18. We're ready to start round 3, and we're going to increase in our first stitch, and in the next stitch a single crochet. So that's an increase followed by a single crochet, and that's the pattern we're going to work all the way around. And I'm just going to kind of bring in my tail while I'm doing this. So we've got our increase and a single crochet. There's our increase, single crochet, and then we are ready for our last increase for round 3. And pop out our stitch marker. And we are now up to 18 stitches. Oops, let's pop that one back through. So we've got 18 stitches, and in the next round we're going to be increasing to 24. Round 24 is going to be another increase round, and what we're going to do is we're going to increase in our first stitch, and then we're going to follow that by a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So again, we'll do an increase followed by 1 single crochet and another single crochet. And that's just our pattern to complete, and that'll give us the 24 stitches at the end. Okay, so we've got our increase, and I am just struggling with this yarn. Single crochet, and it's squeaky. So we've got our increase, 1, whoops, there's 2, and we are on our last increase, followed by 1 and 2. We are now up to 24 stitches, and we'll be increasing again in round 5 up to 30 stitches. Here we are ready for round 5, and we're increasing to 30 stitches. Our pattern is to increase in our first stitch, followed by 3 single crochets. And again, that is an increase, and then 1, 2, and 3. And let's just keep going with that all the way around until we get to 30 stitches. All right, we've got our increase, then 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm sorry if you hear any noises in the background. My cat is trying to add in his own personal information on how he thinks the pattern should go. All right. So there we go. We are up to 30 stitches. We're going to be starting round 6 next, where we'll be increasing up to 36. Round 6, and we're increasing to 36 stitches. And again, just the pattern of placing an increase in our first stitch, and then 4 single crochets after. And so we've got our increase, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, about halfway through. There we go. There's increase, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're getting there. Let's get back in there. Okay. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're on our last increase for round 6. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we are up to 36 single crochet all the way around, and this is as big as it's going to get. From here on out, we're just going to be either staying at 36 stitches around or decreasing. So this is as large of the head as it's going to be. And so next we're going to work on rounds 7 through 12, where we're just going to single crochet 1 in each stitch for 5 rounds. So let's get started with rounds 7 through 12, And all we're going to do is just place one single crochet in each stitch all the way around. And this is going to be what we're going to do for rows 7 through 12, so a total of 5 rounds. And now is a great time if you've got music to listen to or a video to watch or a TV show you want to kind of pay attention to. So just go ahead and keep crocheting, and I will meet you back at the end of row 12, where we'll keep working on the rest of this little guy together. We have completed round 7 through 12, and we're ready to start on round 13. This will be a decrease round, and I start off doing an invisible decrease. I do this by placing my hook under the front loop of the first stitch, the front loop of the second stitch, pulling through those 2 first loops, and then pulling through again. And that gives me my invisible decrease. And then I'm going to single crochet 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's going to be our pattern. So I'll show that again. We'll start off with our invisible decrease, and you can definitely go through and use whatever decrease works best for you, but I just like the invisible decrease, and then we follow it by 4 single crochet. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So we've got our invisible decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4. Decrease, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'll just work this all the way around, and this will give us our stitch count of 30 at the very end. Oop, didn't mean to flip the camera there, but we're on our final decrease, and we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we are at 30 stitches, and our next round, in round 14, is going to be a decrease round to 24 stitches. But before we start that, let's go ahead and put our safety eyes in. So I'm ready to put in my safety eyes, and where I've placed mine is if you go 1, 2, 3, 4 rows up from the bottom. So between the 4th and the 5th row is where I place my safety eyes. And then I'm just going to put the first one in and count over, so from eye to eye there's 8 stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it doesn't have to be perfect. That's just a placement that I'm going with. You can definitely find wherever you'd like to place your eyes, how close or far apart you would like. But the reason I place them right there is when it comes time to put his little snout on, it kind of fits nicely in between the 2 eyes. So I've got my safety eyes placed. I'm just going to make sure they're pushed through nice and tight, and then pop on the backs. Now if you are going to give this to somebody who might have like a small child that could get their hands on this, I would recommend embroidery or felt for the eyes, just because the safety eyes, you know, even though they're called safety eyes, they're not always the most secure way of you know, putting the eyes on for small children. So this is where I've got the eyes placed, and now we're going to get ready to start round 14, where we're going to decrease down to 24 stitches. Let's get started with round 14, where we're going to decrease to 24 stitches, and we're going to start off by decreasing in our first stitch, followed by 3 single crochet. And again, we're going to decrease, and then we've got 1, 2, and 3. And here we go. Decrease, 1, 2, 3. I've had to re-record this part again due to I have a very big cat and he's very clumsy and he didn't make the jump while I was recording this the first time for this round. So here we go again. So we get 1, 2, 3, and followed by another decrease, and 1, 2, try that one again. Okay, and we are on our final stitch for round 20, or I'm sorry, round 14, where we're down to 24 stitches, I think. Let's give that one more try in there. All right. Okay, there we go. Okay, got it. All right, 24 stitches is what we're down to. We're going to do another decrease round in round 15 to get down to 18 stitches. We are on round 15 and we're going to be decreasing down to 18 stitches. And we're going to do that by decreasing in our first stitch and following that with 2 single crochet. Untangle my fingers. Here we go. So we have our decrease. There's 1 and 2. We've got our decrease, 1, 2, and this round should go by pretty quick. If I can just get my hook to cooperate. Okay, so got our decrease. Oh, I messed that one up too. All right, slow down. There we go. There's 1, 2, and our final decrease for round 15, and 1, and come on, 2. All right, there we go. So we have the head all set. Everything we work on from here on down will be part of the body. And we're going to start on round 16 in just a moment, but let's go ahead before we get there and put in some stuffing. So I'm adding some stuffing in. I don't want to really get it packed full. I just want to get a start on it because we'll be able to add more stuffing as we go, but I do want to really kind of work it around these safety eyes and just get a good start. And then as we go on to continue with the body, we'll be able to add more, but this is just something to give you a little more to hold on to. So we don't want to stuff it too much because if it starts sticking out at the top, when you're crocheting around, you can start grabbing the polyfill and pulling it through while you're doing your stitches. So just get a little bit to start off with, and then we'll go ahead and start on round 16. We are on round 16, and we're going to be doing an increase rounds, but we're going to be doing it in the front loop only. So this loop right here, the one closest to you, is the one that we're going to be working in, and not both loops. So again, just the front loop only. And our pattern will be to increase in the first stitch and then single crochet in the second. And where did the sunshine just come from? Okay, so I'll be fixing that here in a moment. So we've got our increase, followed by a single crochet, our increase, and a single crochet. And let's just keep working all the way around, and this is going to give us 27 stitches at the end, and that'll be coming up from 18. And then once we get done, I will fix my blinds to keep the lighting consistent. It's been raining and storming on and off all day, and I was not expecting the sunshine just to show up like this. Not that I'm complaining, because I'm definitely happy to see it. It's just kind of surprised me. Okay, so we've got our single crochet, increase, try not to bump the camera again, and single crochet. All right, there we go. And our last single crochet. So when you've worked in the front loop only and you're looking on the inside, you're able to see that little line of the second loop that you didn't grab. So yeah, you'll see that all the way around. And so we're up to 27 stitches, and we'll start working on rows 17 through 21 just after I get done fixing my blinds. We are ready to start on round 17 through 21, and we're going to be single crocheting just one in each stitch, and we are back to working in both loops. So this is just your regular single crochet, and we're going to do that through all 27 stitches. Now you might find this first round is a little harder to get through because of working through the front loops and all the increases, but just get through the next 5 rounds with a single crochet in each stitch, and I will meet you back at the end of round 21. So we have completed rows 17 through 21, and we're ready to get started on the last 3 rows. But let's go ahead and get some stuffing placed in. We can start stuffing our head to whatever size we want it to be or firmness, and then we'll put some more stuffing in, but not overfill the body. We don't want to catch all of the polyfill in our stitches as we're going, so we'll just get some started in there, and then as we're doing our final 3 rounds, which are decrease rounds, we'll just stuff as we go. So once we get the head how we want it and a little stuffing into the body, we'll start on round 22. Round 22 is going to be a decrease round from 27 stitches down to 18, and the pattern for this will just be to decrease, and then we'll do a single crochet. And I may not even have taken my own advice. I think I got my polyfill up a little too high, and it's starting to poke through. It just sort of snuck back up there on me. So again, it's just going to be a decrease and then a single crochet all the way around. And then that'll bring us down to 18 stitches. So we are on the home stretch of the body part of our little Charmander. So just keep going around, and this will drop down the stitch count significantly, so the last couple rounds will go really quick. And then we've got our, come on hands. Yeah, let's, okay, let me come at this one more time. So grab those front loops, pull through again. There's single crochet, final decrease for round 22, and pop that stitch marker out. There we go. And we are down to 18 stitches, and let me fight with my polyfill a little. And then what we'll do is we will do our round 23 where we'll decrease down to 12 stitches, and after that we'll add some more stuffing and see how we're doing with our stuffing amount before we start our final decrease round 24. Round 23, and we're decreasing from 18 stitches down to 12, and it is the same pattern as the last round. So a decrease followed by a single crochet, and we're just going to work that all the way around. So we've got our decrease and our single crochet, and we're starting to get some smaller work area here. So I'm just making sure I'm staying on the camera. And our single crochet where I'm trying not to grab the polyfill. And there we go. And let's see if I can get in here. So we've got our final decrease for round 23 and our final single crochet, and this is where we can kind of see we're gonna add more stuffing if you need to, but what we want to do is we don't want to fill it too much, because as we're decreasing we want the bottom part to stay kind of flat. That way it sits a little easier. So we do want to fill it, but we just want to kind of bring it up right to where it starts to curve down, and that way it has more of a flat way of sitting when we get everything all done. Okay, go ahead and add in a little more stuffing, and we will have just a little more time before we completely close everything up to add stuffing in before we sew everything closed. So just get it to where you think you want it, and we'll double check right before the end. So let me take a look, and that seems like a good spot. So we are on our last round. So let's do 3 decreases in a row. There's 1, 2, and 3. And while we still have a little room to work with, just kind of work that yarn all over to the edges and kind of get a feel if you'd like to add just a little bit more. I think I will just add just a little bit in just towards around the edges, and that should work good for me. So just kind of squeeze everything, and then what we'll do is we'll decrease 3 more times, and then we'll sew the little remaining gap closed. So 3 more decreases in a row. So we've got 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll just end it in our last stitch with a slip stitch. Let's cut off a length of tail for sewing. It doesn't take a whole lot. And we'll grab our yarn needle. Got it? And then how I close up that remaining gap is I come in from the center out in the front loop only, And I just keep coming through all those remaining 6 stitches. And then once I get through, I just give it a nice firm pull, and then just go ahead and take your yarn and just kind of weave it through the body a few times just to get it nice and secure. And then you can kind of pull it, and kind of brings it flat down here at the bottom. And then once you've got the yarn weaved through a few times, just go ahead and cut that remaining tail. Give your little Charmander head and body a squeeze, and we have got the main part of the project done. Now we'll start working on the arms, legs, the little tummy area, little snout, everything else that goes along with bringing them together. So if you've made it this far, just out of curiosity, what is your favorite Pokemon? And so let's get started on the little belly area next. We are going to take our cream yarn, and the area we're going to be working on right now is just the little circle that goes around the belly. And we're going to start off with our magic ring. And we are going to single crochet 4 into our magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll pull that, and then in the next round, round 2, we'll increase to 6 stitches. We are on round 2, and we're going to increase from 4 single crochet to 6, and we'll do that by increasing in the first stitch, single crocheting in the second, increasing in the third, and single crocheting in the fourth. And now we can give that tail a pull, and we are up to 6 stitches, and in round 3 we're going to increase to 8. Round 3 we're going to increase from 6 stitches to 8, and we're going to do that by increasing in our first stitch. We're going to do a single crochet in the next, a single crochet in the next. We're going to do an increase, and then 2 more single crochets to finish out the round. And so that will bring us up to 8 stitches. Oops, I lost my last stitch. Okay, there we go. We are up to 8 stitches, and in our next round we're going to increase from 8 to 12. So for round 4, let's increase from 8 stitches to 12, and we're just going to put an increase into our first stitch, and we're going to follow that by a single crochet. An increase, and then a single crochet. And that's the pattern we'll work all the way around. I'm just going to grab my tail. We'll do an increase followed by 1 single crochet. We've got our last increase. I am just losing my stitches quite a bit today. Okay, and then we'll just do our final single crochet for round 4, and then we have one more round, round 5, where we'll increase from we'll increase from 12 stitches to 16. Let's finish up with round 5, increasing from 12 stitches to 16, and we'll do that by placing an increase in our first stitch, and then we'll follow it by 2 single crochets. So we've got an increase, and then 1, 2, an increase, 1 and 2, increase 1 and 2. And what we'll do is we'll just end this round with a slip stitch, and then we'll leave a length of tail. And then what we'll do next is we're going to go ahead and just sew that right onto the body. I've got my yarn needle threaded with the tail of the little circle for the belly, and I'm going to place the tail down at the very bottom and just kind of center everything, and then just stitch all the way around to get that in place. And you may have to, depending on your yarn, kind of just flatten it a little bit to get the little belly area to lay flat. Otherwise, once you get it sewn on, you could just bring your yarn needle up and just kind of catch some of those little parts of the yarn and pull it through so it lays flat. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and get started together sewing this on. I'll just kind of show you how I do a few of my stitches, and then we'll meet back once you've got your little belly sewn on. So I just come up one stitch, down the next, and then up into the body. And I just work that all the way around. Come up one, go down the next, and just through. And that works really well for me. So however works best for you to sew that on, just go right ahead, and then I'll meet you back here once we got our little belly sewn on, and then we'll start working on the arms. We're back to our orange yarn, and we're getting ready to work on the arms, which are only 3 rounds. So these work up pretty quick. So we're going to go ahead and make up our magic ring. And then once we have our magic ring, we're just going to single crochet 4 into it. 1, 2, here we go, 3, and 4. So let's pull that closed, and that is round 1. And then next we'll increase from 4 single crochet up to 8 in round 2. Round 2, we're just going to increase in each of the 4 stitches until we have 8 single crochet. So let's just get into the first one. If I can get my, there we go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the last stitch, 7 and 8. And we'll just give the tail a little tug. And now we have 8 stitches. We can go ahead and just do round 3 now. We're just going to single crochet 1 in each of the 8 stitches, and I'm just going to go over my tail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just kind of fold that back down. It just keeps wanting to fold in the wrong way. 6, 7, 8, and then we're just going to end with our slip stitch. Just fold that back, and there we go. We've got our first arm, and we're going to cut off a tail for sewing. I'll have you go ahead and make a second arm, and then once you've got that completed, we'll meet back up and get the arms placed onto the body. So on my original, I went ahead and placed the arms just a little, so not directly down from the eye, but just a little off center from the eye. And I just went right over the little area on the belly, the little cream part. So I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of get an idea of where I want it. And then you can use the tail of your yarn and stuff it in there for stuffing, or you can just also take just a little bit of polyfill and stuff it in there. It doesn't take a whole lot to get these filled up. I'm gonna take my scissors and just kind of stuff it in there. And then once you got as much stuffing as you would like, we'll just go ahead and sew this right on. I come in right at the neck area and then just kind of pull it, tuck in that polyfill. And then for my stitches, I just do the same thing. I just kind of come up one stitch, go down the next stitch and up through the body, and then just work my way around the little arm. And that's all it takes to get that sewn on. You may have a much easier, cleaner way of doing it, but this is just how I get mine attached. So once we've got both arms attached, then we'll meet back up and we'll get started on the little legs. We've got our arms on, and we're going to go ahead and grab up our orange yarn again, and we're going to go ahead and do the legs, and those are just as easy as the arms. So we'll start off with our magic ring, and this time we're going to single crochet 5 into our magic ring. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we'll go ahead and give that a pull. And then in round 2 of the 3 rounds for the legs, we'll increase from 5 stitches to 10. We're on round 2 of the legs, and we're going to increase from 5 stitches to 10 by just increasing in each of the 5 stitches. So we'll get our hook through, and there's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And then we'll just pull our tail. And once again, all we need to do is just single crochet 1 in each of those 10 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's 10 with our slip stitch to end the round. And then we'll just again cut off a length of tail to sew on. This one may need, a little more stuffing than the arms do, but you can use, that little last bit of tail and then a little bit of polyfill to fill that up. And then I'll have you make your second leg, and then we'll meet back and get those placed onto the body. So now that we've got both legs, we're going to look at where I placed them on my original one, and I just kind of brought them in a little diagonally from the arms. So it's almost like a star. We've got the head, the arms, the 2 legs. It's kind of in a star pattern. And again, what I did was I just put a little bit of polyfill in. I'll come in and have the tail kind of right down here where it kind of curves to the flat end, and then just bring it right up and sew that around, and then just place the second one pretty much right next to it using the same stitch technique. So let's go ahead and we'll get those on, and then we'll meet back up once our legs are attached. We've got our legs on, and now we just have 2 more body parts and then the little flame. So the next part we're going to work on is the tail, and then we'll work on the snout, and then the little flame that comes off the tail. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab our orange, and we're going to go ahead and make a magic ring, and then we're just going to single crochet 4 into this magic ring. And then in the next round, we're going to increase from 4 stitches to 6. So round 2 of the tail, we're going to increase from 4 stitches to 6. We'll increase in our first stitch, single crochet in the second, increase in the third, and then we'll single crochet in the fourth. And that'll give us a total of 6 stitches. We can kind of pull our tail a little tight. And then what we'll do is in round 3, we'll just single crochet in each of the stitches. Just 1 in each stitch for 6 stitches. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me just kind of bend that down. And come on. 6. Okay. All right, let's try that last stitch again. And there's 6. We'll just kind of fold that down so we got everything in the right direction. And in round 4, out of a total of 8 rounds, we're going to increase to 8 stitches in round 4. We're ready for round 4, and we're going to increase from 6 stitches to 8. So in our first stitch, we'll increase, and then we'll single crochet 1 in the next stitch, and single crochet 1 in the next stitch. So again, that's just an increase, and that's followed by 2 single crochets. There's 1 and 2. And that is the end of round 4. In round 5, we'll be increasing from 8 stitches to 10. Okay, let's increase from 8 stitches to 10. And we'll do that by increasing in our first stitch, and then we will single crochet 1 in the next 3 stitches. So it's an increase, and then 1, 2, fold everything back to normal, and 3. And that is round 5. In round 6, we can just kind of keep going through round 6 because we're just going to single crochet 1 in each stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that ends round 6, and in round 7 we're going to increase from 10 stitches to 12. We are on round 7 where we're going to increase from 10 stitches to 12, and we'll do that by increasing in our first stitch followed by 4 single crochet. There's 2, 3, 4, and then we've got our increase with 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's let's just go ahead and pop in our stitch marker and then just single crochet one in each stitch for all 12 stitches to finish out round 8. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, there's 12, and we will end with a slip stitch. We're going to cut off a length of tail for sewing, and then for the tail we'll just go ahead and take some polyfill and get that filled. Doesn't take a whole lot, so I'll just go ahead and actually I'll take my crochet hook and just kind of use the end to tuck it in, and that is the tail. Once you got your tail all stuffed, we'll come back and get that placed onto the back of the body. So I am ready to sew on my tail, and how I place mine is where the tail end that I'm going to use to sew with, I place that right where the curve starts to go to the flat part of the body. And then I just use my same sewing technique to go all the way around. And once you get yours all completed, we'll meet back and start up with the snout. So we've got our tail sewn on, and the next part we're going to work on is the little snout, and that fits right between the eyes. And it doesn't take long to work up, so let's go ahead and get that completed next. To make up our snout, we're going to take our orange yarn and we're going to make a slip knot. And I do that by wrapping it around my finger once, then twice, pulling the back yarn over the front, and then doing that again, and then just slipping my hook in. The next thing we're going to do, now that we've got our slip knot, is we're going to chain 5. And we don't want to chain super tight. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we've got our 5 chains, and when we're ready, we're going to next go down the back of the chain and single crochet into those back loops. So if you turn your chain to the back side, you'll see these little bumps right along the back. And I know they can be a little hard to see, but they're kind of like the spine of the chain. And I know I was trying to get it to focus on that. But that's where we're going to single crochet into. So starting from the second chain from the hook, we're going to crochet a single crochet into that first back bump. We're then going to single crochet 1 into the second. And then we're going to crochet 1 into the third. And then on our final back bump, we're going to do an increase. So once we get in there, then we'll crochet 2 into that final one. Now if this isn't working very well for you, you can always just crochet along the chain how you normally would, but I do this because it kind of closes this area up and doesn't leave any gaps. So now that we've got that, we're going to go ahead and in the next round start working on the opposite side. We're now ready to work on this side, and we're going to crochet into this first stitch right here, and it's right next to a little bit of yarn going straight up and down. So let's go into that stitch, and we're going to single crochet 1, we're going to single crochet 1 in the next stitch, and they can be a little hard to get into, and then the third, and then we're going to go into the 4th stitch and single crochet into that. Now we're going to kind of turn our work again, and there'll be a little area right here we don't have to worry about. We're going to go into this first stitch right here, and we're going to do an increase. So there's 1, 2, and then we're going to single crochet 3. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. So let's go ahead and just pop a stitch marker in, and all we need to do now is just crochet 1 in each stitch all the way around. So starting in the next stitch, we've got 1, let's see if there we go, 2, okay yarn, you're tired of me already, ready for this tutorial to be done. 2, so we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, and then we'll just slip stitch into the last, and that should complete everything and give you that kind of oval look for the snout. And so what we'll do is we'll just cut off a long tail for sewing, and you can take your remaining tail and use that to stuff, or place a little bit of polyfill in, and then we'll go ahead and get the little snout attached next. So I've got everything all set. My yarn needle has my yarn, and we're going to go ahead and place the snout right in between the eyes, and I'll kind of show you how I placed it here. So it just kind of sits where it's, the top part is just kind of even with the eyes. It's not perfect, but it's kind of close, so it's just kind of try to center it as much as possible, or place yours wherever you think it looks best. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of get an idea of where I want it, and that kind of looks good, and then I'm just going to sew all the way around, and then once we get that on, we'll work on that little tail flame, and we should be all set with our little Charmander. So we'll meet back up after we have our little noses taken care of. We've got our little nose on, and we're ready to work on the tail, or I should say the flame of the tail. So we're gonna go ahead and make a fluffy little flame right off the, not the very end, but right off the kind of like the tip, so the flame looks like it's kind of standing straight up. And how we're going to do that is with your orange, yellow, and red yarn. I'll have you cut off about 6 inches, and then I'll have you take the orange and cut about 9 inches. And here's what we're going to do. We're just going to take the long piece of orange yarn, the 9 inches, and we're just going to lay the 3 colors right on top of it. And then we're just going to tie a knot. And just make sure that knot is really tight and secure. Let's see, so I'm just going to pull that. And then we're going to keep these 2 tails separate from the other, I just lost mine, the other colors. And these are going to be used to go into the body to hold the little flame in place. So what we'll do is we'll just put our yarn through our yarn needle, and we will come through the very end, top end of the tail. So not the point, but right above it. And I'm only going to go through a couple of times. You'll want to go through more than that to really secure your yarn in, but for time's sake, I'm just going to go in just a couple of times with the yarn. So we'll do the first one, and then we will, whoops, come on yarn, go into the needle. Well, let me try that again. Alright, let me see if I can trim off that rough end. And then we'll just go in again through that really top area, just bring it through a couple times. trim off those little extra tails, and then you'll have extra on here, and then we can cut this off to about 1 inch. So we'll just trim that off, and you'll have these sticking right up on top. And in order to get that fluffy, poofy look that I have, I just took my yarn needle and then just kept working through them and separating them. And it may take a little bit to get them to all start to pull apart, but the more you work with it, the fuzzier it'll get, and it'll have that completed look where it kind of looks more like a, well, I won't say it really looks like a flame, but maybe a little more flame-like than just little pieces of yarn sticking straight up. So if you just keep working your yarn needle through there and breaking up the bits of yarn, it'll kind of give you a fluffier look, and you will be all set with your little Charmander. I hope you enjoyed making this, and again, I'd love to know what your favorite Pokemon is. Charmander is definitely, he may not be my first. I really like Victini too, but it's a pretty good tie between the two. But let me know yours, and if you make one of these, I'd love to see one. You can send an image to me through Instagram, and I'll have my information down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.